Hello everyone, I hope you all are doing well. Welcome to Learn with Wasim. This is Muhammad Wasim Khan, an instructor of your project planning and management course. As you know that we had started the project management processes lesson, which is lesson number 2 in the previous class, we will continue this lecture and inshallah will finish this lecture today. We have already discussed the project management processes, the basic information regarding the project management processes, the definitions of 5 project management process groups, and we have discussed the tailoring as well, what actually tailoring is. Then we have discussed the interaction between different project management process groups. And the project management process interactions were explained based on excuse me, based on the diagram or the graph that you can see on your screen. We have already discussed the initiating process group and this diagram in details. Today we are going to start with the planning process group. So I have already discussed each and every process group in the start of this lecture or in the start of this course. But inshallah, today we are going to discuss it quickly, and I hope that you will have all of the important information regarding the planning process group and other processes groups like execution process group, monitoring and controlling process group, and closing process group. So let's start with planning process group. Planning process group consists of those processes that are performed to establish what? To establish the total scope of the effort, define and refine the objectives, and develop the course of actions that are required to attain those objectives. So obviously, as you know that for any project, we have some objectives or goals, and we need to achieve those goals or objectives properly and accurately. Now, for that, we have to define those objectives. We have to refine those different objectives. We have to establish the scope of the project, that what actually will be included or what will not be included in a particular project. And we will develop the course of action. That means that how to, perform those actions or those tasks for achieving the objectives. So the planning process developed two basic things. The first one is the project plan management plan, and the second one is the project related documents that will be used to carry out the project. So if you want to carry out the project, if you want to execute the project, monitor it, and close the project at the end, you need to have the project management plan. So project management plan is developed as a result of the planning process. So we can say that project plan and management plan is actually an output of the planning process. So significant changes occurring throughout the project life cycle trigger a need to revisit one or more of the planning processes. So obviously, when you are performing a work, when you are executing or carrying out of your work, then you will face some problems or some errors, and you have to, go back to the planning process for, removing or eradicating those errors, or modifying the planning process and improve, the processes by removing the errors. So that's why we can say I have already discussed this in the class that it is a repetitive process. So we have to from execution, or we have to move back toward the planning processes if we want to do some changes. So the project management plan and the project documents developed as output from the planning process group will explore all aspects of the scope, time, cost, quality, communication, risk, and procurement. So I have already discussed that one. So let's talk about what actually the process planning process group include. So planning process group include the following 24 project management processes. I am not going to explain or define them here, but let me tell you what actually those project management processes are. We will discuss each and every process in the coming lectures. So the planning process will include developing the project management plan, plan scope management, collect requirements, define the scope, create work breakdown structure, plan schedule management. If we will have to define activities of the project, then sequence those activities, and after that we will have to estimate the resources for those activities, or the cost of, or budget for those activities, and after that we need to estimate activity durations, or I would say time duration for each activity, and develop schedule, and then plan the scope, cost management. Obviously we have to estimate the cost, determine the budget for a particular project, plan the quality management, plan human resource management, plan communications management, plan risk management, identify the risk, and then perform the qualitative and quantitative risk analysis, and inshallah, then plan risk responses, plan procurement management, and plan stakeholders management. So these are the 24 project management processes that are included in the planning process group, and we will discuss each and every of them in the coming lectures. Now the next one is executing process group. We have already discussed this, but let me revise it again. So the executing process group consists of those processes that are performed to complete the work defined in the project management plan. So what we have actually planned in a project management planning process, we will have to execute that particular plan in executing process group. So it's very simple. It involves coordinating people and resources, as well as integrating and performing the activities of the project in accordance with the plan that we had made or prepared in the planning process. So during project execution, results may require planning updates and re-baselining. So as I told you, that during the project execution, we had to update the plan. We have to do some changes, or the required changes in the plan. This can include changes to expected activity durations. We can do some changes in the activity durations, or changes in resource productivity, or the resource availability, or unanticipated risk that we can have, or we may have in a particular project. So the results of the analysis can trigger change requests that, if approved, may modify the project management plan or other project documents. So that means that if you want to do some changes, you have to, that's not, as simple, like, for example, if you have noticed something during execution and you want to do some changes in the planning, then you can't do it directly. You have to request a change in a planning, and if the top management, or if the authority approved your request, then you um, will be authorized to do changes in the planning, or update the planning uh, process. So the execution process group include the following processes: that is, direct and manage the project execution, perform the quality assurance of the work, acquire project team. You have to acquire the project team. You have to develop the project team, and then manage the project team that you have already acquired and developed. And the managing communication is again very important, and conduct the procurements and manage the stakeholder engagements. So these are the processes that inshallah we will discuss in the coming lecture, but you should have an idea of what actually are included in executing process group. Now let's move toward monitoring and controlling process groups. So as I told you earlier, that monitoring and controlling process group is, we have to monitor the project from initiating to closing of the project. Okay, so it's not a simple separate step like planning or initiating or closing. It is a process that actually manage the other whole process groups, the other four process groups. So it consists of those processes that are required to track, review, and regulate the progress and performance of the project. Identify any areas in which changes to the plan are required and initiate the corresponding changes. So, as in the previous lecture slide, sorry, we have discussed that um, if you during execution you may uh, find a problem and you can go back to the planning process and update the plan, but that's not your task. That is the task of the monitoring and controlling group. Okay. So because they are controlling, they will control the whole process. um, just a minute. I have Okay. So sorry, there was a little problem in my computer. So let's start again from monitoring and controlling process group. So as I told you that monitoring and controlling process stream is actually responsible for checking, for tracking, and for regulating the whole performance or the progress of your project. So they will, identify the problems and will go back to the plan and modify the plan. So project performance is observed and measured regularly and consistently to identify variances or changes from the project planning management plan. So अगर आपका project planning management में plan में कुछ एक चीज एक तरह का है और आप परफॉर्म कुछ दूसरे तरीके से कर रहे हैं, तो दैट मीन कि उसमें कुछ डिफरेंसेस हैं। तो उसको जो ट्रैक करना, उसको रिव्यू करना जो है, वो प्रोजेक्ट मॉनिटरिंग एंड कंट्रोलिंग प्रोसेस ग्रुप में होता है, और फिर उसको आइडेंटिफाई करके उसके बेस पे जो है वो चेंजेस परफॉर्म किए जाते हैं. Changes, controlling changes and recommending preventive action in participation of, in anticipation of possible problems. So once they identify the problem, they have to control it. How to control it? By taking the corrective or preventive actions. Continuous monitoring provides the project team insight into the health of the project and identifies any areas that require additional attention. So I think these sentences are very simple, but I'm explaining it so that you can easily understand it. So let's talk about what actually the monitoring and controlling process to include. So monitoring and controlling process to include the following processes: monitor and control the project work, perform integrated change control, validate validate scope, control the scope, then control the schedule and control the cost, control the quality of your work, control communications, control risks, control procurements, and control stakeholder engagement. So, inshallah, we will discuss each of them, inshallah, in the coming lectures. But you should have an idea of what actually monitoring and controlling process will include. And at the end, we have the last closing process group, and that is, closing the process group, which is actually formally formal closing of the project. So it consists of those processes that are performed to finalize all activities across all project management process group to formally complete the project phase or contractual obligations. So formally establishes that the project or project phase is completed. So that is actually this process would establish that it formally established that your project is going to complete, okay, and you have achieved your goals or objectives from the project, okay. At project or phase closure, the following may occur. Um, During closing the project, what we may face here is that obtain the acceptance by the customer or sponsor, conduct post-project or phase end review, record impacts of tailoring to any process, document lessons learned, apply appropriate updates to organizational process assets, archive all relevant project documents in the project management information system to be used as historical data, and close out procurement. So as I told you that we have, as you know, that I have explained the project process groups and the project life cycles, or the phases in project life cycles. So that at the end of the project we have to close close the project. But closing the project is not that simple. It is actually, we have to formally close or complete the project, and that means that we have achieved our goals and objectives in the form of project or service or results. Um, and we should have at the end of the project we should have some documents regarding each and every activity of the whole project. Okay, so these documents will help us in the coming similar project as a historical data. Okay, and some other important things. The closing process group include the following project management. So, in the closing process group, we will have just two important project management processes. That is to close the project or close the phase, and close the procurements. Okay, mean the movement of procurements, mean the movement of the different resources. So till now we have discussed what are project management processes, what are project management process groups, and then we discussed each and every process group, that is initiating, planning, executing, monitoring and controlling process group, and closing process group. Now let's talk about the project management knowledge area. So as you know that I have already discussed project management knowledge areas at different stages, even at the start of or in the start lecture or the first lecture of this particular semester. And I think in every lecture I have discussed the project management knowledge areas. But right now we are just going to discuss, or I will give you a big picture of each project knowledge area, and then we will discuss each and every project knowledge area in the coming chapters. As I told you that each chapter is based on a particular project management knowledge area. Okay, so we have 10 knowledge areas, or I would say 9 basic knowledge areas, in which 4 are core knowledge areas and 5 are the facilitating, and the one is integration of all the 9 knowledge areas, and we call it the project integration management. So let's start with the project integration management first, and it include, in project integration management we will have to develop the project charter, as I explained this in 2 or 3 lectures. Develop the project management plan, direct and manage project work. Then we will monitor and control the project work, perform integrated change control, and close project or phase. So these are the things we are going to discuss in the project integration management chapter. Moreover, in a project scope management, in project scope management chapter, we will, or lesson, we will discuss the plan scope management, collect requirements of the stakeholders, define the scope. We will create the work breakdown structure, or divide the project into sub projects and activities, and then we will validate the scope and control the scope. After that, we will discuss the project time or project schedule management, and we will discuss it in detail. But it includes the plan schedule management. We will have to define the activities, then sequence those activities, and estimate the resources and durations to those particular activities, and then develop the schedule, and we will have to control the schedule as well. After that, we will discuss the project cost management, which is another project management knowledge area. And this area include in this particular area we will have plans cost management. We will estimate the costs, we will determine the budget and control those costs. Then let's move toward the quality. So another knowledge area is regarding the project quality management. And in project quality management, we will have to plan the quality management, we will have to perform the quality assurance, and then we will have to control the quality. Okay, let's talk about the project human resource management. These five are actually the facilitating knowledge areas. And on the previous slide, that is slide number 23, here you can see that these four are actually the core project management knowledge areas. Okay, so let's discuss the project human the five project management knowledge areas. We call it the facilitating knowledge areas, and what actually these knowledge areas include. So project human resource management include the plan human resource management, how to acquire the project team, then develop that project team and manage that particular project team. Then we will discuss the project communications management, and in which we will have to plan communication management, manage communications and control communications. Another one is the project risk management, which is the plan risk management. We will have to identify different risks in a project and then perform qualitative and quantitative risk analysis. And then we will have the risk responses, how to respond to different risks. For that, we will have a plan as well, and then we will control those risks. Then, okay, we will have the project stakeholder management, in which we will identify different stakeholders of the project. We will plan this stakeholder management. We will have a plan regarding the stakeholder management. Then we will manage the stakeholder engagement and control stakeholder engagement. And at the end, which is the last one, is the project procurement management. And in this particular project management knowledge area, we will have to plan the procurement management, conduct procurements, control procurements, and close procurements. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have these 10 knowledge areas. So, the purpose, of this of discussing knowledge areas in this particular lecture is to show you the importance of these knowledge areas. As you know that, and I told you in the previous lectures, that project management is a combination. It consists of knowledge areas. It is divided into different knowledge areas. Okay, so we should have knowledge of each and every project management knowledge area. And the project management book of knowledge, which is the reference book for our course, include one chapter on one particular knowledge area. So inshallah, we will try to discuss it as much as possible. Okay, in this diagram, you can just see, the different knowledge areas here at in the left column, and we have the different knowledge